In Death Stranding, you, a porter delivering packages in a hostile post-apocalyptic world, must by necessity have a human baby strapped to your chest at all times. Let's get that out of the way right now. In order to see and avoid these gooey ghost men called BTs, you have to hook a flappy little machine up to a BB, or bridge baby. This blue flower looking thing is called an Odra deck, and I love it. It opens and closes faster or slower based on your proximity to a critter, or turns orange and spins if you're too close. This is good, because if they catch you, they will start getting gross with you. It could end very badly. Huge craters are left in the wake of these ghost-human interactions, and humanity is on the brink of extinction. But that's why Norman Reedus is the perfect Amazon employee for the job. He has the unique ability to respawn, or repatriate when he dies. Not just because this is a video game, Yes, actually, just because this is a video game, but also because in the lore of this world, when the nuclear explosion ghosts showed up, people got superpowers called Dooms. It's actually awesome. Very anime. Some people have cooler powers like Fragile, who can teleport, and Higgs, who can do whatever this is. You got tentacles, and they're all coming out, and this is all the ooze, and you got the little people coming up out of the ground, and they're all like, help us, we're coming out of the ground for you, we're mad at you, we're like the ghouls, little ghoul guys. Yes, sorry, you had a question? What does any of this have to do with the baby? Yeah. Well, the baby's connected via telepathic trance to its vegetative biological mother being held in a tube deep within a government facility in order to keep it connected to the world of the dead. That's how they help you see the ghost boys. The government call their captives still mothers and treat the babies themselves as tools to be disposed of, sacrificed, and expended. Yeah, it's absolutely horrific, and not in a good way. But there's too much else here to ignore. There's too much good in this game. Sure, it's not perfect, it might not even be great, but it's certainly not terrible by any means. It's at minimum okay, and I will defend this mild opinion to my death. You really are, for the most part, just walking around a beautiful, difficult-to-traverse world delivering packages. You might do a bit more than that from time to time, but for the most part, you'll be doing a lot of managing your inventory, planning your next move, and putting one foot in front of the other. You can scan the terrain to check where the safest places are to walk, hold the triggers to balance yourself, and strategically plan your route based on the imminent topography. This in itself might be fun for some people and understandably insufferable to others. This game about traveling on foot from one place to another across vast expanses of unforgiving nature makes it difficult to even walk without stumbling, falling, and having a baby cry at you through your controller. Why did anyone think it would be fun to have a baby strapped to you like you're a fucking marsupial for 80 hours? I've done it twice now, I promise it is not. You're incentivized to carry as much as possible at any given time, making getting around even more arduous, but there is an odd satisfaction in figuring out the easiest, fastest route possible and accomplishing a large delivery. You get likes for doing so. It's stupid. I enjoy it. I also don't. Occasionally on your journey, you're bound to come across an acid rain-like weather phenomenon called timefall, or rain that ages and kills everything it touches. During these annoying, partial deteriorating rainstorms is also the only time it's possible to encounter BTs. All that and the unforgiving landscape itself work together to provide the primary challenge of the game, which as I said is really just getting from point A to point B. We do get some very useful tools to help us, such as ladders or ropes we stake to the ground, and as you progress you learn to use these simple tools in more clever ways, or at the very least how to place them less frivolously. That provides the game's secondary challenge, managing your inventory. You can't be too heavy or walking is next to impossible. Travel too light and you may feel you've wasted a trip. Carry too many tools and you can't carry as much cargo. I could go on, even how you carry the weight on Sam's body matters. There's a weird immersion in doing this, preparing your loadout for the journey, planning the path ahead, and then improvising along the way. Then, slowly as you deliver packages to new areas and connect them to the super internet, you can build even more useful structures such as bridges, vehicles like motorcycles and trucks, or generators to charge your equipment. And if you're playing online, you'll have access to some other players' structures or vehicles as well. In this way, slowly over time, you and the other players you're somewhat connected to but can never actually see conquer the environment itself, which if you ask anyone is the true antagonist of the game. The story matters, it's a whole big complicated thing. I think they did a good job in making me feel like I love the baby, I like everyone, and there's some iconic imagery as well as some terrible dialogue. This game has some of the best and worst video game acting of all time. sometimes in the same scene. But none of that is what really matters to me when I think of Death Stranding. What matters to me is how many poorly placed ziplines I can incorporate into my beautiful network of blue speed beams. What matters to me is building roads that it seems like nobody else is contributing to. What matters to me is unleashing the beast and downing 5 cans of Monster Energy. I don't want to spoil anything you wouldn't have seen in early trailers, and multiplayer does make a huge difference in your experience of the world, but I'd be a moron to focus solely on ziplines and roads when the biggest takeaway I'll honestly have from Death Stranding is by far going to be the music. I think this is the best use of full songs with vocals in any game ever made, hands down. I'm not saying the music is better than Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts, nothing is, but I am saying it's the best use of licensed music since and including the Tony Hawk games. That's right, I said it. I would put Cresting Over a Hill and the most perfectly curated song imaginable starts playing over doing a kickflip to Jimmy Eat World any day. That's probably my hot take of the century right there. Low Roar, the band most commonly featured in these musical moments, is an outstanding project I couldn't recommend more. The visuals and soundtrack combine into a tangible atmosphere. This entire game is a vibe. Everything from the sleek black aesthetic of fabricated structures to the overcast, permanently gray sky to how often it rains. The thing is, it's also a slog. This is a game that seems tailor-made for someone like me, and yet I still don't think I recommend it. I mean, if you've spent a long time under an awning watching the rain in Breath of the Wild, or if you're the type of gamer to stop and watch the sunset in Red Dead 2, then I think you'd have a chance to love Death Stranding. Hell, I think it could surprise anybody. The gameplay loop is kind of fun, and it does potentially get a little more shootery as time goes on. I just don't think this is for everyone. I love the game, and there's still a lot about it I would change. Movement, especially during combat, feels very dated. All of combat does, in fact. I get that we're not a warrior, and I sort of love that, but then don't make combat an unavoidable part of the game. I don't love that there's a baby crying at me every time I get hit or fall over. I don't love the repetition or how empty the world feels, even at massive population centers. Snow sucks, the dialogue often sucks, driving sucks, and I don't really feel rewarded much for accomplishing goals outside of these likes that wear out their novelty almost instantly. However, despite all that, I still really do love it. It's a unique, singular feeling thing that doesn't exist anywhere else outside maybe the Metal Gear Solid series. And while I don't feel like this title fully lives up to that name, I also know that it is its own game. It's not trying to be Metal Gear, so it doesn't have to be. It is what it is, and there's a lot here worth keeping. I refuse to throw out this particular telepathic baby with this deeply flawed, viscous, oily bathwater. Higgs' character design is amazing, Doom's as a concept is objectively cool, the asynchronous multiplayer wound up being ingenious, and this shot of Mads Mikkelsen in a barbed wire spiderweb is iconic. There's so much here that is so good, it's a shame that it's all connected to a game some people hate without ever having played it just because Kojima's name is on it. I don't think it's a stretch to say that guy gets too much credit and criticism for projects he works on, and some of that might be the man's own fault, but not when people refuse to even give the game a shot. I'm telling you, I don't think every gamer would love it, but I do wish more people had given it a real chance. I think as years go on, as expectations and marketing surrounding the game's release are forgotten, it's only going to be remembered and received more favorably. I think while being a very fucked up, bizarre entity, Death Stranding is also an interesting case study on what can happen when you embrace a thing for what it is, and not simply despise it for what it isn't.